Random thoughts. In this video, I'm going to read part of Douglas Jardine's book, The Mad Mullah of Somaliland. Now, this is a book about Muhammad Abdullah Hassan and the wars that he fought with the British, with the wars that came to be known as the Dervish Wars. And this war started in 1899 and they ended around 1920. It's a war or wars that went on for a very long time. Now, Douglas Jardine was a British colonial administrator based in Berbera, and he was like second or third in command between 1916 and 1921. So he did engage, or he did participate in this war in very close, can say very close, or he was very close to the people who made very critical decisions about these wars. So he writes this book, which was published in the 1920s. It's kind of like a biography of Muhammad Abdul Hassan, but we can't call it that. He calls it that himself. We can't call it that because he was basically his enemy and he was interested in propping up the colonial government. So because of that, we can discredit his claims that this book is a biography of Muhammad Abdullah Hassan. Nevertheless, these books provides us with insights that we might not get from anywhere else. It gives us the thinking process and the decision-making process of the British during the Dervish Wars. Now, in this part, he mentions the very first death that he records of a British officer. Up until this point, they've engaged Muhammad Abdullah Hassan a few times. There are no casualties in terms of British officers. But then there is this that happens, and this is during the first expedition, actually in 1900 or 1901, when one British officer is killed among or alongside several other soldiers of the British, and also others are wounded. Now, this is what he says. Now, this is within the description of a battle that went on. You need to bear that in mind. When well away from the main column and round the spar, Banyon sent forward Captain D.A. Fredericks, R.E., with a few mounted men to act as an advance party. Seeing the enemy on the hills, some distance to his front, and concluding that the plain was clear of them, Fredericks advanced into some very dense bush where an ambush had been laid. Firing immediately broke out, and Benyon moved up, dismounted in support. Nearly half of his camels and horses were shot, and 350 Dolbahanta horsemen who accompanied him bolted. Some severe fighting ensued, during which Fredericks was killed in a very gallant effort to save a Somali non-commissioned officer. So that's how the first British officer was killed by the name D. Fredericks. And there is another person who is wounded, a British, and this is what he says: realizing from the heavy firing behind the spar that the mounted men must be more heavily engaged than had been intended, Sway directed the reserve company under Dickinson to move to the edge of the spar, whence commanding fire could be brought to bear on the enemy in the plain. Accordingly, the reserve company doubled over the intervening 2 miles, says the spar, suffering somewhat from the enemy's fire from the hills. Thanks to the fire of Philip's detachment, the dervishes in the bush in the plain who were engaged with Benyon men were checked, and the latter were unable to fall back on the spar, but not before a number of our men had been killed and wounded. Among the latter was Dickinson, severely hit in the thigh. So Dickinson also was injured. So there is that first death, first recorded, because maybe there are others, but he has not mentioned them up to this point. So this is the first one he mentions. So that's how the first, or that's the mention of the first death of the British officers by Douglas Jardine. Those are my random thoughts.